Hi, I wanted to make a video about something that's been on my mind for a while. It came up at the weekend with Rachel and we spoke about it a little bit in the videos that I did with her. And it came up when I was talking to a non-eating disordered friend about life in general. I've given this advice in the last week to a friend that's recently been discharged from inpatient and is now working as an outpatient in her recovery. And it's come up for me personally as well. So it came up on Monday with my dietitian, and I've spoken about it today with my therapist at my eating disorders unit. And we talked about how, you know, other people work at the same clinic as I'm at as well. And basically it's about telling on your eating disorder. It's about honesty and truth in recovery. And it's something that I feel quite strongly about. And it's probably the piece of advice that I give most people when I talk about recovery. It's the advice that I took myself early on and made a massive decision to say that no matter what happened and no matter how many setbacks I have in recovery, about how, you know, all over the place it might be and about how stuck I might be sometimes, the one thing I will always maintain is the fact that I will be honest about it, and the fact that I will share that, and I shall embrace the fact that it makes the perfectionist in me squeal every time I admit that I've made a mistake. But something that actually, as painful as it's been at times, has really been the biggest help and the biggest crutch in my recovery. And that's why I wanted to share it. And that's why I told my friends that, you know, no matter what happened to her, or no matter what hits her, or no matter what gets in her way in recovery as an outpatient, that she should be honest with her team and she should tell on her eating disorder, and that she should admit her behaviours, her mistakes, her trips, her, you know, the things that she could have done better, because that's the way that I found that helps me not make the trips into falls. I read a chapter in Jenny Schaefer's book Life Without Ed early on, and that was called Tattletale, and I'll read you a little bit from this and then I'll talk about it. And she says at the beginning of this chapter, in order to move forward in recovery, we must tell on ourselves to our therapists, our doctors, our dietitians, and other members of the support team. And that's true. Like, the only person you're telling on when you admit these behaviours or mistakes is your eating disorder. And the whole point of recovery is to, you know, obviously make the eating disorder weaker. And by exposing lies that it tells you, or you know, or lies it tells you that kind of prompt behaviours, then, you know, it is getting weaker. It knows that it can't keep you. And we know that anorexia and bulimia and other eating disorders are obviously secretive illnesses. And by, you know, by exposing these secrets, it makes the illness weaker. And like I said, it's something that helped me. And I wasn't always like that, but, you know, I knew when I made the decision to work with my team as an outpatient, which, you know, obviously had its ups and downs, and I'm glad I did avoid going inpatient. And, you know, part of that that trust that my team had for me was the fact that I was willing to be this honest with them, you know, and to the point where obviously my food journals, my regular journal, I kept an activity log, I share my blog with them, I share the work that I do with Team Recovery with them. Everything that, you know, to do with my life, I lay on a plate for them. And, you know, that kept me out of inpatient, because they knew that if I made mistakes, that they trusted me to tell them that I'd messed up, or that, you know, I could have done things better, or that I didn't have part of my snack. And that's really helped me. And like I said, it's the piece of advice that I'd give to anybody, is to, you know, no matter how hard it is to admit that you've made mistakes, that by doing that you can work with the people around you, not necessarily your team, but your friends, or, you know, ninjas, or whoever it might be. As long as you keep kind of outing your eating disorder, you can keep building kind of the mechanisms to stop those mistakes happening in the future. You know, whether that's not having your full snack, like I said, or whether that's doing exercise when you know you're not meant to. Your eating disorder is going to love that you keep that secret if that happens. If you, you know, if you are meant to be doing exercise and you go to an exercise class, you've got to understand that every time you do that, and it's the eating disorder you're making stronger. And Jenny went on to write in her chapter that I've learned that sharing what is going on between Ed and me only serves to benefit me. no one else except Miss Perfectionist looks down on me for making these mistakes or falling back into old behaviours and patterns. Instead, people offer support and encouragement to keep me moving along the recovery path. And I think that's so true, that without being honest about the mistakes we make, we're not going to learn from them. I know it's such a cliche to say that we learn from our mistakes, but in my recovery over the last 2 years, I've learned that pretty much everything that I've tried to argue about that phrase, that you learn from your mistakes, about how you don't have to make mistakes to learn from them, I'm kind of undoing that belief, and you do. And I've learned the biggest things in recovery from the biggest mistakes I've made. But I think it's important that those mistakes aren't made and you shouldn't feel guilty about them or hide them, that those mistakes are made and you're honest about them. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that you can make the mistakes and not talk about them and beat yourself up about them, but that's not achieving anything. But if you make the mistakes and tell your team, then they're the ones with the tools to help you undo those mistakes and learn from them. And it is a helping hand, and I think, you're not weak for making the mistakes, you're not weak for admitting that you've made them, and you're definitely not weak for telling your team that you want to work on them. I found it really hard, and something I found useful was sending my journals electronically to my team every week. So, I don't hide anything. And there's things that I write down that I don't even realise, could be things that I need to work on. But actually in them having that, they pull me up on things, they suggest things, they ask me more, they ask me to explain. And, obviously it's quite easy to forget things that have happened in the week, and it's quite easy to think that they don't matter. But sometimes, still I'm learning when it's my eating disorder that's writing something down or when it's me. And sometimes it's hard to differentiate when you're so, involved in it. And I think it's really important that, like I said, to be honest with your team, because at the end of the day, the only person that is losing out, if you're not, is you. Because, like the only person that's, disappointed in you being honest about behaviours is your eating disorder, maybe your perfectionism if you suffer from that. But I've really found that, that honesty has never gone against me. It's gone against my eating disorder, which has felt like me. So, when you're honest about missing meals or missing snacks or whatever, then you think, oh God, if I'm going to tell somebody, they're not going to let me get away with it again, and they're going to do something and I won't be able to get away with that. And, but that's your eating disorder. That's, for me, that's Anna that's missing out on getting her claws into my meal plan or whatever. But just whatever you get to do, so like food journals, like exercise journals, like real journals, anything, just make sure that you're really honest on them and with them. And and remember that by forging them, by forging your weight, by telling people you've eaten things that you haven't done it, it doesn't wash with them. Your team have seen it all before, and your team know when your eating disorder's silencing you, and every time you're silenced by your eating disorder, it's getting stronger. And every time you out your eating disorder and you tell on it and you grass it up or whatever, then you're getting stronger, and eventually your eating disorder should, hopefully, I'm hoping, give up trying to make you silent. So yeah, I think, like I said, I'd give that advice to anybody, and I feel so passionately about it, and I feel like it's helped me so much. And there's not much that I'm so sure of in my recovery. It's all still really confusing quite a lot of the time, but the one thing I am sure of and I'm definite about is that I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have managed to carry on as outpatient in my recovery. I wouldn't have managed to make the progress I've made, and I wouldn't have managed to become aware, or I wouldn't have managed to know the difference between a trip and a fall, or a setback and a relapse, if I hadn't have been honest about the things that have gone wrong along the way. So yeah, I think as long as you're open, honest, and do whatever you can to out your eating disorder. For me, that, like I said, the hardest thing was actually saying it out loud, and I still find it really hard, and I still squirm, and I still and I still don't like it when things are pulled up from my journals or from my food diaries or from my activity, and I have to sit there in a room at 27 years old and feel like a child and feel like, you know, I do recoil, you know, I do kind of like hide in my hands and behind cushions and stuff when I'm in sessions. But going through that is what is going to get me to the other end. And I think, like I said, it's the most important thing to me, and I really hope that, you know, that you can work towards being honest. And, you know, it's taken me 2 years to get to this point, nearly 18 months to get to this point. But yeah, if there's only one thing you listen to me say, and it is be honest and be upfront about it. And it's not in a way that you go, well, I didn't do that, or well, I didn't have a cereal bar, whatever, I don't care. It's more like, you know, I didn't have a cereal bar. And then, you know, and even if you don't know why you didn't have it, or why you should have had it, or whether your eating disorder confuses that, then that's what your team are there for. And that's what they can help you with. And it's kind of saying, well, I don't really know why I didn't do something, or I don't really know why I had to go out for a walk, or I don't really know why, you know, why I felt certain ways, or why I entered into certain behaviours. But, you know, at the end of the day, you tell them what, and someone else will help you decide why, or work out why. And that's part of recovery. And you can't work out what the problems are unless you admit when they happen. And we can't go from being disordered to recovered overnight. And it's not linear, and it's not always going to go right. And although I would like it all to go right, and I'd like it all to go in a straight line and go, you know, all the way along like this, all the way to recovered, it'd be quite nice. But actually part of recovery is accepting that it's not going to be like that. But like I said, just be honest, be upfront, be truthful, tell on your eating disorder, grass it up, doss it in, whatever you want to call it. But don't let your eating disorder trick you into staying quiet because it's easier, or don't let your perfectionism stop you telling somebody you've made a mistake in recovery, because I think it's hard advice to swallow, and I hate it that so many people could tell me, Sarah, I told you so, but you do learn from mistakes. And, you know, by telling your team these mistakes, you can work together to work out how you're going to learn from them and how you're going to build on that, and, you know, ultimately how you're going to make Anna, Ed, Ursula, whatever, shut up and realise that they're not going to silence you anymore. And I hope that helps. And yeah, like I said, it's a chapter in Jenny Schaefer's book, which is included in our recovery reading list. And I really, you know, if you don't own it and you don't have it, check it out, download it on your Kindle, ask to borrow it for a friend. If anybody wants any more bits from it from me, then I'm willing to share some. But, you know, go out and buy it, and it's helped me. And like you can see, it's got so many different like kind of bookmarks and notes in that help me consistently in my recovery, and I presume it's going to help me for quite a long time. So yeah, there you go, be honest. Bye.